Today we're going to show you how to install a Gy6 short axle on your Gy6 long case motor to replace the long axle when you're running a fatty 12x8 or 12x7 tire. First thing you're going to do is take a 10mm socket and you're going to remove this bolt to drain the gear oil. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this 10mm off, and it's on there pretty tight. You may have to use get elbow grease, and as you can see it's lifting the motor up. So I'm going to see if I can hold it. So we're going to take, you can either make it loose or take it completely off. You need to do this so when you take off the drain bolt below, it actually drains. The same bolt here that we've just removed is where you're going to fill the gear oil once we put the short axle back in. So this is the drain tube, or the drain bolt. Just take it out slowly and the gear oil should pour out. There you go. It's only about a half a cup of it in, and what we recommend that you do is tilt the motor back so that it flows out. Okay, so we've drained the oil. Just go ahead and put the drain plug back in and make sure it's tight. So this is how your motor comes from the factory. It has this plastic cover. It has a CVT cover. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take off the kick start lever. It's a 10mm bolt. And what you're going to have to do most likely is take a screwdriver and pry this open just a little bit so this slides out. And lucky for us, we didn't have to do that. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to take out all of these 8mm bolts. And there's 10 of them here. Just to remember where all these little brackets go, because you're going to reuse those. And for the sake of this video, we're going to show you once we got all of them done. Just remember, we do have some here as well. That's the drain or the fill hole for the gear oil. Then you have all these here, and there should be 10 of them. So we have all the bolts removed, and what we would like to do is start from here and move our way back. And then we start back over here at the bottom and move our way back. And the reason why we do this is because, as you can see, there are different lengths of the bolts, and plus it kind of keeps track of where each bracket goes. So those were from the top towards the back, and these were from the bottom front towards the back. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove this plastic piece. You're not going to need that. That's strictly for packing purposes. And then we're going to take off the CVT cover. The CVT cover should pop right off, just like that. Sometimes you may have to take a little screwdriver, but if you grab it from the front there, it will come right out. And here we have the open CVT cover. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take a 17mm socket with an impact and take off this nut to remove the clutch. So we're going to go ahead and take off the nut, take off the washer. We're going to take this clutch bell off, put it to the side, and take off the clutch. You may have to squeeze the belt a little bit to give some slack. And by squeezing it, you're actually pushing it down into the pulley. So now you have no clutch. So what we're going to do next is we're going to remove some bolts. So now that we have the clutch off, we're going to carefully remove the gasket here. This gasket's not too important. It's more to keep dust off your motor. Just remember, you have a dowel pin here. So carefully pry it off. If you do rip it, it's no big deal. Again, this is strictly to keep dust out and water out. You also have another dowel pin here as well. If you're using a ankle biter or CVT cover, an aftermarket one, you're not even going to reuse this. But for this video, we're going to show you how to do it and how to put everything back on. So we are going to reuse this gasket. So what we've done is we've placed a rag underneath here, because as soon as we open this case, some leftover oil is going to come out. We're going to remove 6 of the 6mm bolts, and you use a 8mm socket for this. So we'll be right back once we have all these bolts off. Again, it's this one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so we have all the bolts. We've started clockwise from this bolt and moved clockwise, and then we go ahead and put them on our cloth in the same order because these bolts are different sizes. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take this cover off. It should come off pretty easy. Just wiggle it. There you go. Just like that. And here are the gears. So I'm going to show you what to do next. You're going to go ahead and push the axle through. Push it right out. Just like that. And then you're going to separate the gear from the final gear, or the axle. Alright, so we have the short axle here. We're going to go ahead and just slide the gear in, and then slide it right back through the hole. Just like that. Make sure that these teeth line up with the other teeth. It's that simple. Give it a turn. Now, as you notice here, some gear oil has seeped into this gasket. You can wipe this off or use a new gasket. Or what we like to do is use black RTV around all of this and remove the gasket completely. Just remember that you do have these 2 dowel pins here and here, so take note of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wipe this gear oil off and put the cover back on. So what we've done is we actually have removed the old gasket, and all we do is take some brake cleaner, some carb cleaner, just clean around all the surfaces here so the new gasket that we're going to place doesn't have any oil. You might want to take your rag and stick it on the bottom there to kind of clean that oil off in there so it doesn't drip down as you're putting the new gasket on. And just take note again, when you take off the old gasket, make sure that the dowel pins are still in place. I'm going to show you us putting on the new gasket and buttoning this up. So here's the new gasket. We're just going to slide this over the 2 dowel pins. Just like this. Now this piece right here on the top folds in. Just like that. And those dowel pins are there to actually hold the gasket and for the cover. You're going to take your cover that you just took off, put it on, make sure to line up the dowel pins. Voila. Take the bolts and do it exactly how you took them off and tighten them all back up. So here we have all the bolts back in place. We're going to go ahead and tighten them up. And next thing we're going to do is put the clutch back on and show you how that's done. So we're putting on the old gasket. Again, make sure it fits over the dowel pins. And you have to put this on first. Then you're going to put on the clutch. We're going to put on the clutch bell. The washer. And now, before we put on the bolt, we're going to put a little Loctite on and use the impact. Now some of you may be going, hey, you guys forgot about the belt. Well, we're going to show you why we're doing it in this order. It's very hard to compress this and open this up with your hands. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this on first. Then we're going to put the belt on. So now we're going to go ahead and take that same impact gun and remove the 17mm off the variator. Just like this. We're going to take the belt and put the belt back on the clutch. Squeezing it in and over the boss. You may have to squeeze this piece, go inside the belt and fit it over the variator boss. Just like that. And what we like to do is when we put this back on, the variator back on, we like to squeeze the belt so that we make sure that it's flush against the boss here. So he's putting on the variator plate. Just make sure that the teeth are on the splines, because that is your crank. We went ahead and put on the variator and put the nut on with our fingers. And what we're doing is we're turning the belt. Now what we're going to do is we've already put some Loctite on this bolt, and we're going to put pressure on this side of the plate while we're tightening it up so that it goes on straight. We're going to turn the belt a little bit more. And it's going to be a little tight because there is a spark plug in there. And we just want to make sure that the variator is against the boss completely. And then we're going to give it a final. And again, we'll check this one more time and make sure that everything's on good. Alright, so we have the belt back on. We've torqued everything down. We're going to go ahead and put the CVT cover back onto the motor. And again, make sure that that boss lines up with the dowel pins. And it has to go on flush and evenly. Alright, so we have the CVT cover on. Just remember to line up the dowel pins. Sometimes you have to put the Kickstarter back on because it's spring loaded in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure the dowel pins are lined up and take a rubber mallet and slightly tap the face of the CVT cover to get it to close up. So we'll kind of show you kind of what we're doing here. Just lightly tap it. There you go, just like that. And then up in the front. And now you can start putting on your bolts. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put all the bolts back on where they came off. It's a good idea to use Loctite on these two as well, but you don't have to. Now we're going to go ahead and put the kickstand back on. Make sure it goes all the way on, because the bolt has to go through that shaft, and it's got a groove in it where the bolt goes through. Alright, now we're pretty much got everything done. Only thing we need to do now is put oil back in. Alright, now that you got everything buttoned up, you're going to go ahead and put your gear oil back in. You're going to use 80-90. Again, it takes about a half a cup. What you're going to do is, we do carry this Maxim gear oil. It's real easy to use. All you have to do is cut off the top, put it inside, squeeze it in. Once it's done, you're going to pull it out. You're going to go ahead and set the motor level and put a trash can underneath it until it pours out. Once the oil starts pouring out, then you're going to go ahead and put your nut back on. So when you fill it on the side, it is going to overfill. Then you put it level and it should drain out. Once it stops draining out, you know it's level. Go ahead and put your nut back on, tighten it up. That's pretty much it. Hopefully this helped. As you can see from this side, now you have a short axle. You don't have this long axle sticking up. And we've shown you from start to finish with a brand new motor what to do. Thanks for watching. And for more videos, please go to our YouTube channel, The Ruck Shop. Thank you.